Well, a hard suspending jerkbait might just be one of the most misunderstood lures out there, and really it has to do with the presentation, okay? We know that it's a reaction type of a bite, but if you're a new bass angler or a bass angler that's been fishing a while but really hasn't had success with suspending jerkbaits, there's a good chance that it all has to do with the amount of slack line. Well, I really wanted to show you the difference in the lure underwater when it has plenty of slack line on the rip or when the line is just a little bit too tight. So I filmed the lures in high speed and then I slowed them down for you. And when the lure is pulled on a tight line, okay, and which is great for cold water fishing, but not so much in the spring, summer, and fall, you can see a couple things happen. One, basically we just have straight horizontal movement. It's pulling it a long distance. And two, really the only action is just a little bit of side to side roll. Now when we rip this lure with plenty of slack line, and I mean you want to have some bow in the line there, and you can go ahead and slash that rod, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet. And what happens is the lure does not move very far horizontally or towards you, and it has a hard snapping action. And you can see it here in the super slow motion that it just boom, it just turns and then it'll rock back the other way this full 180 degrees. And when we watch that in real time, that hard snapping action, that instantaneous snap like that is what gets the bass to react. So you can imagine if this lure is coming through and working to where some bass are sitting or there's a school of bass sitting and it just has that hard slash to it, they can't help but react. It's literally like you're force feeding the fish. And it doesn't take much difference between the perfect amount of slack line and then when it's slightly too taut. And a really easy way to tell if you're doing it right, you know, we can't be under the water and watching it when that lure is way out in front of us, is to really pay attention to your arm that you have your rod in, that you're doing the ripping with. If you are getting a massive amount of arm fatigue, you're like, man, I can only fish this 20 minutes, and that's too much, you don't have enough slack line. When you've got the right amount of slack line out there, you can really rip that lure and the arm fatigue is much, much less. So that's kind of like a real easy self-check. If your arm's hurting, put a little more slack line in the ripping action. And this applies to all different sizes of jerkbaits, whether you're using small 100 size, the popular 200, or some of these deeper diving size 300 jerkbaits, is that slack line is absolutely the key. And you can use this thing like this, really rip it spring, summer, and fall. I catch a ton of fish on it. It's probably my #1 reaction bait. I just have so much confidence that I can go out there with it when the water's got some clarity to it. You know, even if it's only a foot or so, that's going to be enough. I know I can force those fish to eat. And hey, if you would like to watch a video about adding another presentation to your soft jerk baits, okay, something that you can throw into the mix, been around for a long time but it works so well, go ahead and check this one out right here. Make sure that you go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.